Before we get started, be aware that this video is a part 2 and will be presented under the assumption that you've already seen my original glitch video for the Elden Ring base game from last year. In the DLC, we'll be making use of glitches taught as part of the first video without wasting time reteaching them here, and the character I'll be using for this playthrough is a continuation of the same build from the original video. You can find links to that video in both the description and pinned comment. With that disclaimer out of the way, when I last left you, we had just become Elden Lord after skipping as much of the lands between as possible. But now, we have a new goal, and an entirely new realm to conquer. So the question is, how many of the old Elden Ring glitches still work on current patch, and what new glitches might have emerged from the additional tools granted by the DLC? I'll be answering both those questions today. It's time to break Elden Ring once more. This video is sponsored by Factor, the service that does the work of meal prepping for you. If you're anything like me, your schedule is always overloaded, but just because you don't have a lot of free time doesn't mean that you have to sacrifice having a healthy diet. Factor delivers chef-crafted, restaurant-quality meals to your door that are ready to heat and eat in 2 minutes. And to be clear, this is not TV dinner quality stuff. Factor uses premium ingredients like filet mignon, shrimp, salmon, truffle butter, broccolini, and asparagus. They cater to specific diets like low-calorie, keto, vegan, and high-protein. And also, this was news to me when working on the sponsorship with them. They also now have breakfast, meal replacement smoothies, and drink options as well. I have friends that have personally recommended Factor to me before I ever had the chance to work with them as a sponsor, so trust me when I say that their food is legit. Use my coupon code Phobia OCT50 to get 50% off your first Factor box and 20% off your next month of orders using my link in the description or by scanning the QR code with your phone. And thanks to Factor for helping to fund the production of this video. In order to reach the Realm of Shadow, we need to have defeated Mohg so that we can touch the withered arm of Miquella within his arena. Mohg is easily accessed by using either the Pureblood Knight's Medal given by Vare, or by using the Sending Gate found within the western half of the Mountaintops of the Giants, a place we can still glitch to even on current patch by using the Snowfield Skip. This has never been patched even to this day. While we're on the subject, I guess it's a good time to go into which glitches have been patched and which ones haven't. The goal of my channel is and has always been to create a resource of glitches that all just simply work, so that you can confidently watch a video of mine and then immediately try the glitches out for yourself on whatever the modern version of the game might be. This is true for every video on my channel. You can watch any of them and still perform the glitches shown on the current patch to this very day. Except for Elden Ring. This game has been such an unprecedented runaway success for FromSoft that Miyazaki just won't stop patching it.
How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man?
Hahaha, I really like Fito.
The good news for us is that almost all of these patches have been PvP related. In fact, every glitch I talked about in the original Elden Ring glitch video all still work exactly as originally described to this day, except for 2. The Gravity glitch can no longer be used to skip Morgott or Godskin Duo, and the Unload glitch can no longer be used to kill Commander Niall. To this very day, even after the release of the DLC, you can, among other things, still freeze Malenia by clipping out of the bounds of her arena by using Aghil's Flame. So even though the Gravity glitch with the Devourer's Scepter has indeed been patched, we don't even need it. As you can see, here on this playthrough I have not defeated Morgott, and the barrier to the Mountaintops of the Giants is still here. But by using Aghil's Flame, we can clip onto the wall in the same procedure as the original glitch without needing the Devourer's Scepter in the first place. Rather than targeting the unlit brazier on the right side like with the original setup, the modern setup requires you to target the one just below it. First we begin a sprint, and jump just as our character's feet meets the first tuft of grass in the stairs, holding forward and toward the wall on the right, using Aghil's Flame at the peak of the jump, and then spamming the jump button, just like the first part of the Malenia Freeze glitch. Although it is possible to jump onto the wall from here, it's unlikely, and in most cases you will end up jumping over it and be stuck floating in the air like this. From here, if you quit out of the game and load back in, you will spawn on top of the wall, and the rest of Morgott Skip can be completed as shown in the original video. The latter half of the glitch has not been patched in any way. As for the Unload glitch, it's a bit more complicated. The version at Commander Niall has been fully patched, full stop. If you want to cheese Niall, you'll have to shoot him with arrows through the little hole in the wall or something. I don't know, I'm not your dad. But the astute among you will know that the unload glitch was useful with multiple bosses, not just Niall. Which brings me to Mohg. Traditionally, Mohg was one of the bosses that could have been instantly killed through the unload glitch, and this can still be done on current patch, though it requires an unintuitive workaround. Once you've reached Mohgwyn Palace, we ride the elevator up to Mohg's boss arena, trigger the cutscene to load his model in, and then immediately quit out of the game and reload to respawn back outside of the arena. Next, we take the elevator back down and return to the previous grace, but do not rest. Doing so would unload Mohg's model and prevent the unload glitch from working to kill him. Next, drop off the edge of the platform to the right and land on this small protrusion in the wall. From here, we can jump and hold forward and into the wall to land here, and then sprint jump to land further down on the ground below. Everything looks normal as of now, but we're technically out of bounds already. From here, we proceed backward toward the White Rocks, and then summon Torrent to make this jump to the right. Again, remember that we are out of bounds, so summoning Torrent is going to be a bit hit or miss for a while. We jump up the cliffs to the right, and run around the tops of the rocks until reaching this location, where we can summon Torrent once again, and make a jump to this small hole leading into nothingness. Unlike using the unload glitch with Commander Niall, this location is fully out of bounds, and as a result, isn't limited by the same global kill planes. If we attempt to drop straight in with Torrent as before, it won't work, and we will die anyway. But in this case, since we are so far out of bounds before we even start falling, we can make use of an alternative setup. By equipping a sorcery or incantation that allows itself to be charged indefinitely, we can drop off of the ledge and into the hole while holding down the cast button, and as long as the spell is being charged, we will be immune to the kill plane, and the glitch will function as usual. I'm using Heal for this example because it can be purchased from Corrin immediately upon entering the Round Table Hold, but you can use any sorcery or incantation as long as it can be charged forever. Simply hold the cast button as you drop off the edge, and wait. Eventually you should start collecting runes for the enemies that drop to their deaths as the environment unloads, and if you haven't rested out of grace, this will work on Mohg as well, even on current patch, proving that the Guardian to the Shadow of the Erdtree himself can still be glitched to this very day. Once you have what you need, you can open the map and the casting animation will begin to play out. If you can warp to a new destination before the animation finishes, you will even be able to keep the runes collected in this process, making this the best farming method for runes on current patch. It doesn't get any faster than this. Now that Mohg is defeated, we can take the elevator back up, grab the Grace, and speak to Letta to be introduced to her band of followers. And then finally, touch Miquella's arm to be warped to the Realm of Shadow, where the proper content of this video will truly begin. Our goal is to reach the final boss of the DLC by using glitches to skip as many of the quote-unquote required bosses as possible. But, glitches or no, we still have to actually get to Anir Elim. After reaching Gravesite Plain, we touch the first Grace, pick up the map for this region from the trail just ahead, and continue forward until reaching the three-path cross, where we meet Redmane Freya and the Hornsent, two of Letta's followers that will become part of the notoriously difficult NPC gank boss at the end of the DLC, along with Letta herself. This fight cannot be skipped, even with glitches, and we also cannot kill these NPCs while they stand in the overworld. Attacking them here will just make them fade away, and then the next time you rest at a Grace, they will reappear. I do have a plan for ultimately addressing this fight before we get there, but for now, we're forced to leave these characters where they stand. To the west, we find the main gate cross side of Grace, as well as Mor and Ansbach. Mor is yet another of Letta's followers that will try to fight us at the end of the game, but Ansbach is one of two that will have a change of heart, meaning we absolutely want to finish his questline to make him one of our allies instead. The other potentially friendly NPC is found to the east at the Pillar Path cross, and we can get there a bit earlier than we're supposed to by making our way to the gravestone platforms along the wall near Scorched Ruins. Like all gravestone platforms in Elden Ring, these are intended to be used as a shortcut, allowing the player to drop from a higher platform back down to a lower one, and aren't meant to work in reverse. However, in this case, the wall itself is so rocky and irregular, we can use tiny protrusions in the wall to make jumps that were never intended to be possible, climbing the gravestones vertically and reaching the pillar path without ever exploring Castle Ensis. This is a relatively minor skip to be sure, but I'm bringing it up because almost every stone wall in the DLC shares this rough, rocky geometry, and with practice, it's possible to climb vertical cliffs and survive falls we were never meant to by simply carefully positioning Torrent. This is something that is possible all over the DLC, and something I think that has yet to be fully explored, so I'm anticipating more skips discovered in the future that utilize this technique. Next we ride north and take the path to the right to the Pillar Path Cross to speak to Teolier, the other friendly NPC whose questline we'll need to complete. And in order to do that, we need to go to the Stone Coffin Fissure at the absolute southern tip of the Realm of Shadow. On patch 1.13 and earlier, there was a skip we could use to go straight from Gravesite Plain to Charles' hidden grave that saved a ton of time, and I was really excited to tell you about it. But this got patched in the middle of me making this video, so without access to that glitch on current patch, we now have no choice but to go the long way. We ride south, back the way we came, past this gooning individual on the ground, and trigger the invasion with this B-list Marvel superhero. We'll have to fight him twice to reach the next area, but this first fight is the easier of the two. Directly ahead through the cave entrance, we enter the Dragon's Pit, and drop down the hole to fight Ancient Dragon Man a second time, this time as a dungeon boss. Although this fight is slightly harder than the invasion, neither are difficult if your weapon is faster than his. Too bad for the MCU. I guess they'll just have to make the 148th Deadpool movie or something. From the other side of the boss room, we exit the cave and reach the foot of Jagged Peak. And from here we can ride further south to reach Charles' hidden grave, and ultimately drop down one of the giant stone coffins along the wall to reach Cerulean Coast. This is not the only way to reach this area, but going this way also unlocks access to Jagged Peak at the same time, and is therefore more efficient overall.
Oh, fuck.
Now that we're properly in the southernmost area of the Realm of Shadow, we can ride the rest of the way south, pick up the map found here, and drop down into the pit leading to the Stone Coffin Fissure. We're here a bit earlier than we're intended to be, and as a result, we can only get so far before being stopped by a golden wall that simply says, sealed and obscured by Mikola. This wall will not disappear until we have approached Shadow Keep for the first time, and there's no other way to get around it, so guess it's time to go do that. Shadow Keep is on the opposite side of Castle Ensis, so the most straightforward way to reach it is to simply cross the stone bridge at the entrance, climb to the top of the castle, and defeat Rellana at the top. Now Rellana can be a tricky boss at first, but thankfully I'm a vastly above average player, so... Right, so as I was saying, the most straightforward way to reach Shadow Keep is to go around Castle Ensis and definitely never fight Rellana. This has been showcased by a ton of people, time and time again, so I won't go into too much detail about it, but there is an intended skip for Rellana that you can follow by riding southeast through the Poison Swamp and taking 2 Spirit Springs in sequence. These are sealed by the breakable stones found everywhere in the DLC, and this one is found close by on a hill just above, but if you're ever in a situation that you don't know where to find one, you can use either Morgott or Mohg's Shackle. These items produce hitboxes that are practically the size of the current map, and for some reason these stones can be broken by them. It's arguable whether or not you'd call this an exploit, but this is a glitch video after all, so exploit or no, anything that works is fair game. The 2 Spirit Springs will take you to the back entrance of the Fort of Reprimand, where you can jump from the wall on the right to escape the fort, and then ride to the north through the break in the stone wall, past the Ghost Flame Dragon, and continue north to pick up the map for this region, before turning south to ride to the backside of Castle Ensis and the Grace at High Road Cross. Both the Hornsent and Leda are found here, and we want to exhaust all their dialogues before continuing on. Further to the south, we see the fog wall that would serve as the exit to Rellana's boss room if we had defeated her. You cannot enter the arena from this direction, but if we check Rellana's spacing within the room, you'll see that she begins the fight standing much closer to the fog wall at the exit than she does the one at the entrance. Yeah, I can work with that. By equipping the incantation Flame of the Fell God, obtained from beating Adan, Thief of Fire, and Liurnia, we can spawn giant floating fireballs that travel forward on their own and will inexplicably even pass through some fog walls. This won't work at all if you're spamming the spell, but by casting one and waiting, it will travel forward a bit and then explode, painting the ground and fire AoE damage over time. This effect on the ground reaches just far enough forward to cover Rellana's position within the boss room, if we cast it from the fog wall at the exit. So we can stand here, cast one Flame of the Fell God, listen for it to detonate, and then cast another to keep Rellana standing in a sea of flames for minutes on end. This can take a long time if you're doing this with a low faith level, or a sacred seal that is unupgraded, so remember to bring a lot of cerulean flasks. But keep this up for long enough, and eventually, you will kill Rellana without ever entering the boss room. This is something I can't believe hasn't been patched yet, but it still works. Now we could proceed forward to Shadow Keep through the main entrance, but we'd be faced with the Golden Hippo and... So here's another option. By riding east from the High Road Cross, we can reach Morth Ruins. What's notable about this area is that there is a pit found within a crumbling house that we can jump down. That we can carefully jump down. That I swear we can survive to jump down. You know what? Parry dropping still works on current patch, and I don't care what anyone says, it's easier than the platforming in this game. From the bottom of the Morth Ruins pit, we climb up the ladder to reach Bonnie Village, then continue east until you get the notification, somewhere a great rune has broken, and so too has a powerful charm. This is from Miquella destroying his own great rune, and in the process, removing the brainwashing of the various NPCs in the DLC. Something we will need to address soon. Following our current trail to the north will allow us to reach the Flooded Church District, which also serves as the eastern entrance to Shadow Keep. Going this way will allow us to jump across the rooftops and take an elevator up to the Specimen Storehouse, while avoiding the fight with the Golden Hippo. Most notably, going this way not only grants us access to the grace in the back section of the storehouse, but it also allows us to drop down to the first floor and grab the grace that we would have gotten after defeating the Hippo anyway. 2 checkpoints for the price of 1. Several NPC quests take place here within the storehouse. In a room on the first floor, we find Ansbach, who is beginning to question Miquella's intentions and seeking information regarding Mohg's death. By climbing to the top of the storehouse to collect the secret right scroll for him, we can earn his loyalty and have him serve as a cooperator in the fight against Leda and her allies at the end of the DLC. We also find Freya, who is struggling to read, I think? What, does she play Yu-Gi-Oh or something? Freya will never ally with us, even if we help her, and this is the first opportunity in which she becomes vulnerable, so we take her out here to ensure that she can never be summoned as part of the gang fight with the rest of Leda's team. Speaking of Leda, now that Miquella's charm is broken, both she and the Hornsent will have new dialogue back at the High Road Cross. Leda in particular is becoming paranoid and thinks that someone in her group may be plotting to double-cross her. We have the option to suggest she kill Tiolier or the Hornsent. In actuality, Tiolier is the one that will abandon Leda's group, but since he will become an ally, we want to tell her the opposite. This will allow us to use Leda to kill the Hornsent, who is still invulnerable to our attacks, as well as keep Tiolier alive for later. After fully exhausting both Leda and the Hornsent's dialogues, Leda will agree to your suggestion of hunting down the Hornsent, and 2 summon signs will appear at the main entrance of Shadow Keep, which can be reached by taking the elevator down from the first floor storeroom. We use the red invasion sign to aid Leda in killing the Hornsent, and once he dies in this encounter, he will be dead permanently, meaning he will be unable to help Leda later on when we have to fight her.
Gotcha, bitch!
There's one other dangerous NPC to deal with, and that's Mor, who never moves from his spot sitting outside the entrance to Bellarat. Once Miquella's Great Rune is broken, he will be feeling kinda down and asks us for advice. Answer, remain sad forever, and he will unalive himself without us ever needing to lift a finger. It's like I always say, why do work that clinical depression can do for you? Oh, sorry, let me stop being toxic for a second. Now with Miquella's Great Rune broken, the golden wall blocking us from entering the stone coffin fissure will be gone, so we can hop down the giant coffins to reach the lower parts of the area, sprint past the Leonine Misbegotten that no one that has ever made it to this area in the DLC has ever had to fight themselves. Well, yep, there he goes. And grab the Grace just before the drop down to the boss. Now I know we're going to have to defeat a Remembrance boss in order to reach St. Trina, and I know that his name is the Putrescent Knight. So I'm expecting like a big guy in a suit of armor with a sword, and since he's the guardian of St. Trina, they'll probably want to work in the sleep mechanic by giving him some AoE sleep magic that we have to avoid or something. Okay, this shouldn't be too bad, right?
What the hell is even that?
Okay. Maybe this shouldn't be the very first Remembrance boss we fight in the DLC. Let's try an easier one instead. Like, Bayle. We already have access to Jagged Peak from completing the Dragon Pit earlier, so it's just a matter of climbing to the summit. We can ride past all the drakes along the way and reach the top without ever fighting anything. Now I don't have to tell you that Bayle is one of the strongest bosses in the DLC, but as you might have guessed, we won't be fighting him the intended way. By equipping the Concealing Veil Talisman, while both Unseen Form and Assassin's Gambit are active, we will have so many stealth effects stacked together that Bayle won't be able to see us when we enter the boss room. The Concealing Veil only works while you're crouched, and the other two will only last for 30 seconds, needing to be recast before they expire, or Bayle will immediately detect us. We repeat this to make our way all the way to the back of the boss room, and then move forward until we are crouched behind Bayle's back. From here, we can cast Poison Mist to deal indirect damage to Bayle without giving away our position. As long as we stay crouched and don't move, Bayle won't see us, even after the stealth buffs wear off. As you might imagine, this is going to take a long time, and a ton of recasts of Poison Mist. But since we're just waiting around anyway, you can swap to the Blessed Blue Dew talisman for passive FP regen, so that you'll be able to cast the spell infinitely, no matter how tiny your blue bar might be. After a full half hour of waiting, we defeat Bayle without ever seeing the first attack from him. This exploit has been in the game since Shadow of the Erdtree first released, and shockingly, it still works even now. With an upgrade this huge, we might stand a chance against the Putrescent Knight. And what's more, this time, we won't have to fight it alone.
Well, I'm not much good at anything is all.
Teolier is hardly the most powerful warrior in Elden Ring. In fact, he's quite the opposite. He hardly deals any damage at all with his poison perfume bottles, but that doesn't really matter. Much like with Mimic Tear, or frankly any Spirit Ash at all, the advantage comes not from the damage they deal as summons, but their ability to distract the boss while you attack. The Putrescent Knight still hits like a freight train, but Teolier grabs the boss's attention just long enough for us to heal when necessary, and with his help, we take it down on the first attempt. If you're following along with this video, this boss will be the most difficult fight in your run, not because he's one of the harder bosses in the DLC, but because the item we're picking up next is so glitchy, it will be the last boss fight we ever do. The cave at the bottom of the stone coffin fissure holds Saint Trina, the goddess of sleep and the abandoned half of Miquella. This is Teolier's object of desire, and we find him lying on the ground before her, struggling to stay awake. If we interact with Saint Trina, we can drink her poison to be put into an eternal sleep, which causes instant death. After repeating this process several times, she will begin speaking to us, telling us that we have to kill Miquella to prevent him from manipulating more people. Once this happens, we share this information with Teolier, but he calls us a liar, and the next time we approach the cave, he will invade us as a phantom. We have to cut him down here, but remember, as long as NPCs are in phantom form, deaths are not permanent, and if we return to the cave, after a bit more dialogue, he will fall fully asleep, presumably hearing Saint Trina's voice for himself, and will have officially joined our side against Leda and her followers. But we didn't come all this way just to complete Teolier's quest. We came for this. The Saint Trina Disciples Cookbook 3, the single-handedly most broken item in Elden Ring. This is the recipe needed to craft Lulling Branches, a new consumable, and one of the only ways to inflict the sleep status on yourself. This is normally not particularly useful beyond triggering the buff of Saint Trina's Smile, but for a glitch playthrough, this item is revolutionary. With nothing else standing in our way, we take the elevator down from the storehouse and ride across the bridge to reach Rao Ancient Ruins, hop down onto a tree to avoid navigating the majority of the stone labyrinths, still not patched by the way, and make our way all the way southwest to the boss room of Romina. Now if you know your Elden Ring, you know that the only way to reach Anir Elim is to defeat both Messmer and Romina, and to use Messmer's flame to burn the ceiling tree Romina guards, teleporting you there. But as it turns out, with glitches, both of these bosses are in fact skippable. Starting from the grace just outside Romina's boss room, we equip the Lulling Branches we can now craft, and Torrent's Spectral Steed Whistle on the hotbar, then a bow in our right hand and a shield in our left. We use the Lulling Branch to begin the buildup of the sleep status on our character, and then just before it triggers, we summon Torrent from the hotbar and begin holding L1 at the same time. If timed correctly, we will fall asleep on the same frame as Torrent would be summoned, causing the camera to temporarily zoom in with the bow's crosshairs before kicking us back out to third person. And now, as long as we continue holding L1, the game will be in a glitch state where it is constantly trying to resummon Torrent. And if we walk off the edge of a cliff in this state, with the ability to float on thin air, we can simply walk around Romina's boss room to reach the ceiling tree, and then skip that as well by continuing forward straight ahead, toward Anir Elim itself, until reaching the loading zone at this point on the stairs, triggering it to load in properly, at which point we can finally release L1, skipping 2 bosses and placing us in the final area of the DLC. As you might imagine, with a glitch this broken, this is not the only place it finds a use. We can also use it to skip Commander Gaius and collect the 5 Shadow Tree fragments locked on the hillside beyond his boss room by airwalking from the hinterlands. We can see Gaius' boss room below us to the left, but there's no need to fight him at all when we can make our way straight to the rewards on the opposite side of his arena. The problem is, the reason we have disabled gravity in the first place is that the game is continuously trying to re-summon Torrent, right? This works when going to Anir Elim because that is a region in which Torrent cannot be summoned, so when we release L1, nothing happens. But in this case, we're going from one area in which Torrent can be summoned to another area in which Torrent can be summoned. So when we release L1 here, this happens. Huh. Thankfully, circumventing this issue is actually a lot easier than you might imagine. All we have to do is equip a consumable with a long activation animation, like a rune arc, on the hotbar, and then use it when we reach the location we want to stay. Before the item animation finishes, we simply quit out of the game and load back in, to find ourselves on Torrent in whatever location we were when we quit out, allowing us to ride up and collect our Shadow Tree fragments for free. There's a reason I call this the most broken glitch in Elden Ring, and it even has uses outside of the DLC. For an example in the main game, here I am standing near the 4 belfries in Liurnia, facing south toward the peninsula that is only reachable by following Ranni's quest and going through the Lake of Rot and beating Estelle. We can trigger the airwalk glitch from here, and yes, I'm not joking, literally run on foot all the way down to that region of Liurnia by walking on thin air. Once we reach the peninsula and get an icon of the Stake of Marika on our HUD, we jump and release L1 midair to get stuck in a falling animation, which will cause our character to die and prompt respawning at the Stake of Marika. Now back on solid ground, we can make our way to the Cathedral of Mana Celis and drop down the hole to find Ranni's doll, and then here's the best part, the game doesn't even check to see if we have the Dark Moon Ring, it just assumes we must in order to have reached this point. So we can interact with Ranni, pull out a ring we don't have, and be given the Dark Moon Greatsword without ever even starting Ranni's questline. The airwalk glitch is insane. Since I know you're going to want to try this out, let me be a little more descriptive with how it works. First of all, this glitch is extremely difficult to perform. Expect to have to practice this for hours before you can execute it reliably, and if you're playing on PC, you should set a reasonable capped frame rate so that you have consistent frame times to give you the best chance. Once it properly triggers, because the game is stuck in a loop of trying to summon Torrent over and over, some really weird behavior will be at play. Among other unusual properties, as long as we are holding down L1 and the ability to airwalk is being maintained, we will only be able to move our character forward in a straight line. As long as we're standing or walking forward, the shield in our left hand will take priority, and holding L1 will correspond to a block. But if we roll, the game will try to put us into first person. By abusing this fact, we can roll twice to have our character's forward direction be realigned with the direction the camera is facing through the use of the bow, but only if we change directions in small increments at a time. With proper planning, we can overcome this forward-only limitation and reorient when necessary, meaning the possibilities of this glitch do feel nearly limitless. I see no way this glitch doesn't get patched in the future, so enjoy it while you can. Before we proceed to Anir Elim and fight the final boss, I do want to point out that I am aware of the various cheese strategies for some of the bosses in the DLC. The Shadow Tree avatar can be exploited by dropping down onto a precarious piece of geometry on the left side cliff, and then you can use the Ash of War of Mohg's spear to deal AoE damage to the boss and defeat it from a safe spot. Shout out to Iron Pineapple for this one. Additionally, the same thing can be done with Commander Gaius by trapping him on the corner of the wall immediately to the left of the entrance fog gate, or with Romina by using some of the objects in her arena like stepping stones to jump up onto these mushrooms that grow along the wall. Now, I happen to think that none of this is necessary when you can walk through thin air and skip all of them, but yes, to answer any potential questions in the comments, everything I just described does still work today. With Anir Elim already accessible, it doesn't take us long to reach the top, where Leda and her allies are waiting for us. Or should I say, ally? Dryleaf Dane and Leda herself are the only ones who cannot be killed or convinced to change sides beforehand through NPC Questlines. These two you always have to fight, no matter what. But with there only being two, And with both Ansbach and Tiolier being summonable for us. So, you guys up to anything fun lately? I've been playing some Pokemon Emerald lately. It's pretty fun. Found a shiny Zigzagoon. That was cool. Oh, okay, they're done. This leaves nothing but the final boss of the DLC before us. So we pass through the fog and...
Oh dear. Another dogged contender.
Oh, wait a minute. I'm getting it confused with Dark Souls 3. It's not these gay brothers. It's these gay brothers.
Hahaha. Ideally love making brothers gay.
Now look, I know this boss is extremely controversial. I tweeted out my impressions of Consort Radahn the day I fought him, and I won't go into it again here. I know some people like this fight, and if you're one of those, genuinely I'm happy for you. But I for one feel zero remorse for the horrible things we're about to do to him. Most people watching this video are likely aware that Consort Radahn has an infamous glitch that abused the same stealth buffs that we used to poison Bayle earlier. We start by casting both Unseen Form and Assassin's Gambit, just like with Bayle, then wait for Radahn to turn and walk toward the wall in the back of the arena. We then make our way to the left side of the arena, and inch our way closer until being in range to throw a status-inflicting consumable, like a hefty rot pot, near him to proc Scarlet Rot. Also, let me emphasize the phrase, near him. If you accidentally hit him in the head with the pot, he will immediately detect you, and that's bad. Once the Scarlet Rot wears off, he will be near his transition into Phase 2, so throw a second Hefty Rot pot, and then immediately use the Mimic Veil from Stormveil Castle in order to transform into a random object from the environment. Once Phase 2 triggers and the cutscene plays, you will be teleported to the center of the arena, which is why the Mimic Veil is necessary. Don't touch the controller until Radahn turns around and begins flashing. Then once you move, he will be warped underneath his original spawn point along the cliff, stuck within the rocky wall. From here, he would fall out of bounds, and you would be given credit for the kill. However, I can confirm that as of patch 1.14, this no longer works. All of the setup for the glitch works the same today, but FromSoft added a platform for Radahn to stand on within the wall, so even if we perform the glitch successfully and he gets trapped, that's it. He will simply continuously fire attacks at us from within the wall, or worse, manage to clip himself on top of it, where we can't reach him, and he can't reach us. Cool. So I guess this glitch has been fully patched, huh? By just putting a little platform within the wall? And doing nothing else to address the root cause of the exploit? You really thought that would do it, huh?
Ideally thought that to do it.
Turns out FromSoft made an oopsie, and it's such an obvious one that I can't believe they missed it. The platform they added doesn't extend all the way horizontally within the wall. So if after he begins flashing, we break out of the Mimic Veil and immediately sprint for the left corner of the arena, when Radahn gets trapped within the wall, he will try to follow us in that direction. Once he gets close enough into this corner, he will fall off of the platform they added, and we will get credit for the kill, same as before. I tried this multiple times and can confirm that it is both a consistent method to one-shot Consort Radahn, and that it still works on current patch. Come on guys, at least make it hard for me when I break your games. And with Radahn down, that's all I have for Shadow of the Erdtree. There's also always the possibility of new glitches being discovered in the future, so remember to always keep an eye out for odd behavior. Let me know your thoughts, and feel free to leave suggestions for other games you'd like to see broken in the future. Thanks for watching, and remember, I've done glitch videos for every Souls game at this point, so if you aren't caught up, go fix that. I'll be back with another video soon. Don't miss it.